did you guys know that there is anime existing adapting Sherlock Holmes books? Yeah, I was pretty surprised as well, because I heard a lot of stuff about Sherlock Holmes, but anime adaptation about Sherlock Holmes. And actually, not even Sherlock Holmes, because main character of this anime is actually Moriarty, his biggest villain. Now that's interesting, isn't it? And since the last series with Cumberbatch was a little disappointing at the end, let's see if this anime will be able to entertain me.
Quick disclaimer before we start this.
So, anime starts, and it takes place in 19th century London, where somebody's apparently killing people. Since it's medieval London, I would assume it's Jack the Ripper, because in many anime, when things are taking place in old London, they seem to insert this character for some reason, like JoJo even did it. But no, not because I'm wrong, but because Jack the Ripper is gonna show up in season 2. And right now...
Oh no, it was murder, all right.
Anyway, we cut to another bad rich guy, which is Moriarty, and his brother, who not only looks exactly like him, but also acts exactly like him.
A dreadful affair, William. Simply awful. I think it's about time we involved ourselves in this case, Lewis.
British. I do everything with a British accent.
Anyway, throughout the dialogue, William, I'm gonna call him that, says he know who might be behind all those murderers mentioned in the newspaper.
Looking at the child victims and the occupations of their parents, is that they frequently find themselves at the service of nobles and aristocrats.
And actually, let's take a step back and explain a big issue with those characters. Because they literally look the same. In some scenes of the anime, they even change hairstyles, and because of that, you really think who exactly is in front of you on the screen. Literally, I was watching this anime with my friend, and on one scene, we had like a 10-minute argument about who exactly is we seeing right now. Like, seriously, I'm not joking. This is an issue, because sometimes you're watching this anime, you question yourself, who exactly is this? Is this Lewis, or is this the main character?
They're confusing as hell.
Basically, the villain in the story, spoiler alert, is some rich guy. Because one of the victims was an orphan, just like Moriarty in the past, he decided to solve this case. And okay, you might have thought the art style and the plot does look familiar. I mean, come on, Moriarty even sounds similar to Light.
Noblemen and orphans, two positions in society that couldn't be further apart.
Wait, on the off chance someone really dies, would that make me a murderer?
But that's only from first glance. But I'm pretty sure if Death Note dropped from the skies, we would have seen a pretty similar story. On the other hand, oh boy, that's a crossover I want to see.
Was he spotted from a carriage? No, the boy was chosen as prey.
And sorry, but allow me to be nerdy a little, because I just love this scene. Not only great highlight of the background to kind of do a symbolic gesture, but also, bruh, amazing music. I mean, actually the whole anime has amazing music, but this scene in particular just, like, I don't know, I just like it a lot. Anyway, back to nitpicking. You might think that Moriarty is jumping to conclusions all the time, but, well, not really. Right now he disguises himself to talk to the potential suspect, because when William disguises himself and talks to the potential suspect, he realizes that pieces of his clothes, clock, and etc. are all from parts where murders took place.
I haven't seen your hat either, but I imagine it's from Morgan Brothers. Nor your horses. Furthermore, as of late, your musical interests have moved towards the concertina.
And also this guy's so nervous, he practically gave it away. And then just left in the middle of the conversation. So, I would say he's probably guilty.
Sorry, I thought I left the stove on.
Like, does Moriarty have any actual evidence to present in the court? Not really. Does he actually need to show it in the court? Not really. He just talks to one of the fathers of victims and presents him an opportunity for revenge, which he agrees to. Which is all William needed. So, at the same time, we also get a different character with green piece of clothes. That's really all I remember him by. But he's not really important to the story, so I'm not gonna talk about him too much. Also, he also acts the same way William and Louis do, so... well, at least he has different design, I don't know. Okay, please stop with the great imagery. I can't compliment it too much.
It's actually this gentleman who was adamant about arranging some time alone with you.
You took out your scissors, and you just cut it up.
Oh, and actually, I'm sorry, but who the hell puts on a tie like that? Like, that's not how a shirt's supposed to look like with a tie on. Police is of course stupid enough to not figure out anything from William's doings the whole season. Basically, the whole season we're going to watch series of small stories where William and his sidekicks are going to help some person who got fucked up by somebody else. To the next story, where a poor girl fell in love with some rich guy who was doing drugs. Because of that, the guy who was supplying him with drugs drugged that girl, so she killed herself, and nobody figured this out, except for William, of course.
Huh? What the fuck are you talking about, man?
Literally, this specific episode was such a surreal experience. Not even only because of the plot I just told you, but because in this episode, William doesn't even use like any deduction or any detective skills. He pretty much just recognizes that his student is missing. Yeah, by the way, he starts working as a professor, just like in the books. It turns out his friend haven't seen him for a couple of days. And he, for some reason, didn't even tell anybody. And I originally thought that this guy had something to do with the disappearance of the student, but no, he's just an idiot. Then Moriarty just goes to the pub where this guy was last seen and just bribes the waitress, who literally tells him everything. Bruh, aren't you like the smartest person in the world? Like, couldn't you figure it out without paying?
No, anyone could have done that.
Like, you know, plot of the episodes after first one are not necessarily bad, but after first one, which was really well done and really well drawn, it's a little disappointing, you know?
Professor James Moriarty.
He learns about the whole drug thing that I mentioned before, and with the help of two other sidekicks, I'm just gonna call them Sniper and Curly Hair, because they don't really go beyond that characteristics.
Though sadly, I'm unable to bring the girl back. I'm now fully aware of what must be done.
They figure out the whole story and punish the criminal in pretty entertaining finale.
My love.
Love is for poets.
Basically, Curly Hair disguises himself as that girl who killed herself, and they manage to trap this guy. And later, this happens.
What the?
Of course, he has to swim in the same water we all do.
Of course, as always, only bad person got punished, which is actually a little weird. William constantly comes up with those convoluted plans where he tricks people, lies to people, and puts them in moral danger, and nobody ever witnesses it unless he plans to, and also nobody ever gets hurt unless he plans to. And it does look badass if you don't think about it too much, but still, sometimes it feels a little too stretched. Also, I gotta admit, I was legitimately surprised with how dark some of these stories are. Literally, if you thought the story about a drugged girl who killed herself was dark, come and look at this crap!
If this keeps up, I don't think... Please, I beg you, help my boy. What? All we need is a moment of your doctor's time.
It is simply out of the question.
Our son's fever isn't coming down. But if nothing's done, my boy's likely to die.
So what if he does?
Yes, this guy closed the door between a family with a kid who is dying, and, spoiler alert, the kid didn't survive. Cut to the present, where William actually meets with this guy.
As fellow noblemen, I hope we can enjoy each other's company for many years to come.
He sounds like a good guy.
Oh.
Turns out that the people from a flashback still work for him, like... What?! Okay, we do have a couple of extra scenes, which again really nicely show the whole depression and sadness of two parents. Like, one of them still have to work for the rich assholes and fix his garden because he's an expert, even though he hates him. Wife slowly getting crazy and still puts food for the kid who's not even there. Like, all that atmosphere is legitimately really good. But then comes William, and in 2 seconds realizes there's something wrong with them, and right away presents a revenge plan.
Seems you're in luck. You see, Mr. Burton, in addition to my teaching, I run a consultancy business on the side concerning these matters. Unless I'm mistaken, I may be of some service to you.
Doesn't it bother you discussing all of this in front of a perfect stranger?
By the way, check out this symbolism.
All of these plants are rare, only able to spring forth from an exceptional seed.
I grew up from a seed, tough as a weed.
However, I do gotta mention that all the rich bad people in here are, well, like, really bad. Like, there's practically no redeeming qualities for them. Like the guy from the beginning, just a blank serial killer. He just kills for, well, just for that. This guy didn't even treat peasants as people. He was ready to get rid of them just because they were hurting his business. And this guy, well, didn't even have to do anything. He just could have asked his doctor to help the gardener. And I remind you, the best gardener, there's no replacement. He's the only specialist in town, which located God knows where. But, well, he doesn't care. Why?
Because I'm evil.
Like, this guy has a whole garden of unique flowers and trees, and the only gardener in the whole town who can take care of your flowers comes to your doorstep with a dying child. And what do you say? You just tell him to go away, and then you just see nothing wrong when he comes back to work the next day. Like, this guy is so not transparently evil, he doesn't even see anything wrong with his actions. And then when William poisons him with the juice, which causes his illness to kick off, he doesn't even understand what he's being punished for.
I, William James Moriarty, sentence you to die.
Like, not gonna lie, this is both really hilarious and extremely dark. Okay, now we're getting close to the finale of the season, let's talk about Sherlock Holmes. Because, of course, adaptation of, well, Sherlock Holmes books cannot be without Sherlock Holmes. However, if William tries to be the guy from the books, at least somehow, while still being a good guy, even though, well, that feels almost impossible if you know what kind of Moriarty was in books, Sherlock Holmes is practically the complete opposite of himself. Like, in this book, he's a young guy who hangs out with ladies, he always cracks up jokes, he always laughs. Even in the scene where he meets William, he acts like a goofster, and even the way he figured out William is a professor is so obscurely dumb. Like, this legitimately reminds me more of the relationship between Light and L, like from Death Note, instead of actual relationship between Sherlock and Moriarty. But, okay, who am I to judge fanfic writers? Like, okay, anime decided to copy this classic scene from Sherlock Holmes books, where Sherlock can figure out stuff about people just by looking at them for a few seconds. In this case, he does exactly that. He realizes William is a professor. How he does that? Well, you see...
It's simple. Whilst I was observing, I noticed how long you stood in place, distance, and the angle you chose.
And this is pretty much my whole problem with some of the detective scenes in the show. Some of them are done really well, and it's actually believable that William or Sherlock can figure out stuff just by looking at people.
It's rather elementary. There's no denying the staircase is beautifully adorned and worth admiring, but where was your attention? The curve of the staircase, and whether or not it adhered to a certain principle.
Sherlock realized William was a professor because William looked at the geometrical structure of the stairs. What?
Are you on crack?
Alright, not only it's dumb as hell, but also, why did William stop to look at the stairs? He never done that before. It would have been fine, I guess, if it was pre-established that he likes to look at buildings to see their geometrical structure or something, but in here, William just does that for no reason. On the other hand, I like that in here Sherlock knows karate instead of boxing, unlike in the original, because I feel like it's a change for the better.
That is to say, thematically.
And actually, okay, let me point out the elephant in the room, because I usually don't like dubbed anime, because, well, voice actors usually either not getting paid enough or not trying hard enough. But in here, some of the voices, like for example Moriarty's voice, are actually amazing. Sherlock's voice, on the other hand, is just like Jesus Christ. Just turn off your microphone and leave. Okay, anyway, on to the final arc, which Sherlock actually takes a really small part in. Basically, William and his whole crew are now boarding a ship, which is named Noah's Ark. How biblical. And actually, funny enough, they're not even hiding it.
He obviously was a nobleman no different than me.
This is actually funny to hear, considering Noah was not some rich guy. He was practically a drunk living on the streets. Anyway, the story that goes later is actually pretty good, and I think it really deserves to be finale of the season, because it really structured that way and looks like the story stepped a little forward. Remember when I said that all villains in the series are all undeniably bad? Well, this guy's pretty much the worst of them, because he kidnaps peasants in order to hunt them like animals in his own mansion. So William intends to make a fool out of him publicly. First, he sends letters to him, somehow, I guess using his criminal friends that he got off screen or something, it's not really explained, that he lost all of his mansion and money, causing him to freak out since he's stuck in the boat.
He received a telegram saying his cottage burnt down and there was an accident at his colliery.
And Moriarty's plan is that in order to relieve that frustration, he will try to kill somebody, at the same time paying another small criminal to purposefully bother him on the ship.
Why go through all the trouble of pestering some ponce?
And well, this villain, like a fly that goes to a honey,
I can have any bottle I want.
Yeah. If you somehow survive!
You spilled your wine, Trace.
on one hand, pretty good plan. Believable if you know how humans sometimes act, especially, crazy ones.
What a fine evening this has been.
But on the other hand, William just shows up afterwards and oh wow, what a coincidence. I totally didn't see that coming.
I'm letting myself in.
But I distinctly remember locking it behind me!
William, pretending to be the nicest person in the world, says that, well, we're rich people, let's just throw him off a boat, nobody will notice. The main villain agrees, and they throw him off a board. However, because William of course planned this all along, they capture a body on the nearest floor, not letting him fall into the water. Next day, when they both go into theaters, main villain in the auditorium sees the guy who looks oddly similar like a guy whose heart he pierced with a knife the day before.
How could this be possible?
He runs to check it, but this guy's disappeared. Of course, that's all William's doing, who's specifically doing this charade to piss him off even more. Again, knowing unstable emotional minds of serial killers who are even present in our world, this is surprisingly not that dumb. Basically, they left the body with a knife on the stage, so the main villain, in hysteria, started stabbing him again. And then, well, surprise, surprise, everybody saw it, right on the stage. And I'm actually surprised how quickly people believed that. I mean, even during Abraham Lincoln's assassination, people thought it was part of the show. And then here, they didn't even see blood or anything. On the other hand, we do have an interesting conversation about how main villain gives a speech, how he's royalty and therefore can do anything. And some other rich people who are previously agreed with him now disagree with him because it's in front of everybody and they don't want to look bad in public eyes.
No matter what you call it, you still committed murder!
The main villain in hysteria again tries to go stab somebody, but is stopped by Sherlock, who, like I said,
I know karate.
Meanwhile, at the same time, Sherlock checks the body and figures out that everything was staged and planned all along, because this guy clearly didn't die just now. Meanwhile, the main villain, while running away for some reason, climbs on a pole, and of course falls down, while falling, realizing that William was the one who staged this thing all along. Which, again, pretty badass. At the end, we get to have a pretty cool conversation between William and Sherlock, who basically figured out William's whole plan, just didn't realize it was William, even though...
What was the end's goal?
That is precisely the mystery I'd like to unravel.
Bruh, you're Sherlock fucking Holmes. How do you not realize that? And to be completely honest, first season left more or less good impression of the anime. I mean, okay, mostly good impression, because along with everything I mentioned, there was also a backstory. I don't even know why it needs to be there. In books, Moriarty didn't really have a backstory, which was okay with me, honestly, because he was menacing enough and not knowing his backstory only added more charm to him. Okay, basically, backstory tells how William and his brother Louis were in the foster house, where they got visited by Albert. Yes, that guy with a green short or whatever that is. Yes, and that's the only characteristic that I remember and gonna mention, because there is literally nothing else. He's basically just some rich smiley face who just comes around, pays for William's shenanigans, and that's about it. He doesn't even serve tea like Louis, so he's even more useless. Basically, Albert saw how William and Louis have potential and they're smart and blah blah blah, so he wanted them to be part of his family. However, his parents... are rich. Therefore, by the logic of this anime, they're also...
You will become an agent of evil.
And funny enough, there could have been an interesting progression of characters because it looks like father of Albert only adopted William and Louis because he wanted to impress another noble woman, who he wanted to cheat with on his wife or already cheated. It's not quite revealed because, well, the main character just started a fire in the mansion to get the riches and get rid of the evil rich people to become the evil rich people themselves. Even the son of the family, who I'm also not gonna mention because he's really stupid and pretty much just evil, he wanted to frame the main characters.
You thought you'd hide that silverware in our room and then discover it later. That way you could frame us as thieves and have us thrown out.
So in exchange, they took this fork and knives and just stabbed him with it. So yeah, that was really pointless. Not only this backstory is at all important, basically the only important thing it is that Louis got a scar, which he covers with hair, so okay, that is also useless. The stupidest part on why I hate that flashback is basically reveals that Moriarty is not even his actual last name.
And these two are my brothers, William and Louis.
And actually, William is not his real name either. William is the name of Albert's actual brother, who they murder in the fire. Bruh, do I even have to explain why this is really stupid? In fact, why did they even need to do flashback for William and Louis and, like, literally Louis and Albert are not even important to the plot. They barely do anything in the anime. So why do we have to know their backstories?
At the end of this show, nothing is ever what it seemed.
You know, also a funny detail that in Death Note, Light's eyes were constantly glowing red whenever a moment needs to be more epic. But I love that in here, creators just gave up and gave him straight up red eyes all the time. Like, Moriarty's cool enough, he's cool all the time, he doesn't need to change color styles. So I guess in conclusion, first season left out pretty good impressions. The second season we're probably going to talk about in the next review because it gave me completely opposite feelings. In there, I'm probably going to compare it a little more to the book, which in this one I tried not to do, because even though anime is adapting information from books, it's not exactly following it one for one. Which again, it doesn't really have to, because overall it was pretty entertaining, and I'm not gonna lie, I enjoyed watching this anime. Leave a like, subscribe, ring bell notification, tell me in the comments how wrong I am, and see ya.